Eat, Sleep, Boxing, Repeat. Delighted to be joined by Greg and Elliot. We're kind of, I wouldn't say in the aftermath of Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall now. A few days have passed. I think people have come to terms with the judges' scorecards, the fight itself, and some people are ready to kind of move on now and just look more towards other things that are happening in the super lightweight division. I want to be asking these guys, just now that Josh Taylor's confirmed he's going to be vacating, what the division is going to look like for the next couple of years after we've had someone rule the division with all 4 belts for a period. So first question, gents, I want just kind of one name from you guys in terms of, obviously we know the belts could go in different ways and people could, they could be vacated for a while, or someone could pick up 1 or 2 or 3. It's unlikely someone's just going to kind of pick up all 4 in the way that Josh Taylor did in the next few months. But just want to ask, who do you think we're going to be talking about as the number 1 140-pounder for the next couple of years? Greg, I'll go to you first. Who's that? Who's the star name for you?
I think it'll be someone moving up from lightweight, Elliot. I don't think the guys there now are, it's not that I don't think they're good enough. Prograis is coming to the age of 33. I think he's around about 33.
Right, yeah, 33.
Ramirez is a very good fighter, but elite, I'm not so sure. Zepeda, bit of a puncher, but I genuinely think it might be Ryan Garcia. I think it'll either be Ryan Garcia or Teofimo Lopez. Genuinely, I think it'll be one of those 2 guys, but it's very difficult to say because they're not in the division yet. I think Lopez has talked about moving up, but I honestly can see it either being Ryan Garcia or Teofimo Lopez. If you want one name, Ryan Garcia.
Interesting. I think, as we know, Teofimo Lopez I think he's made it clear he's not fighting at lightweight again, but we'll have to see when his next fight's going to be. I think Ryan Garcia, like we know, he's got a fight coming up, but looking at the way his physique he's looked like he's going to build out. Yeah, and he's still quite young as well. But no, except that, Elliot, we'll go to you next. You're allowed to kind of look at the people coming up as well, or do you think it's going to be someone who's at 140 already?
I was actually going to say Lopez is a good shout, just simply because I think he'll be more natural at the weight than someone like Garcia. I think he'll carry more power up there as well. But equally, when I was looking at, I think Greg's right as well. To be honest, I would have said Prograis, but then obviously like the age factor is one of those things where you're going, I mean, I think he's got the ability to dominate maybe for a year, 2 years, but then obviously age will catch up with him. Ramirez, as Greg said, I mean, look at it for anyone from that division other than Prograis already there would be Ramirez, 29. So maybe, a couple of years. But I actually think one name I'm probably, like Greg said, I'm echoing what Greg said, really. It's hard to say Lopez because he's not there yet. But Lopez or Prograis, so I'll say Prograis, just for difference.
Yeah, you think, okay, I think he's the top guy. So yeah, I feel like it's a division that with or without Josh Taylor, we're going to see some great fights. There are some very good fights in the division. I think one fight that's actually happening this weekend, Jose Ramirez against Jose Zepeda, who two top 10 guys. And I feel like I spoke to Paul earlier, and it's kind of like feels like it's an unofficial final eliminator. You'd expect the winner of that fight to be fighting for a world title this year, but we'll see how things pan out, see how long Josh Taylor holds onto the belts for. Just want to ask, like, people are going to be talking about, like, who are the top 10, who are the top 5. I just want to kind of get, like, if it's possible, I know it's tough, like a top 3 list from you now. Interested to see whether Jack Catterall is in that list or not. But yeah, as you know, there's kind of some good fights in the division. If we can, like, focus on the guys who are like officially 140 pounders now, because obviously the guys at lightweight haven't competed there yet, and we don't know what they're going to look like exactly. But yeah, it doesn't have to be a top 3 list. It can just be like top couple of guys or however many you want. Elliot, I'll go to you first. Who are along with Prograis, who are the other kind of top guys in the division now, do you think?
You know what? I wouldn't have actually had Catterall in there before last weekend. Now I kind of feel like you can't not have him in there. I feel like he's earned that right. I feel like you can't leave him out of the conversation. So he would be in there for me. I think Prograis in there for me as well. I've been impressed with. I've watched him in the past. I think his career's obviously stalled somewhat. And he's fighting McKenna as well, which for me, again, is a bit of a backwards fight, a bit of a backward step for him there. But he's in there for me on talent alone. And then, like you say, to be honest, with the outcome of the fight you just talked about there, Ramirez versus Zepeda would probably be, I suppose, would comprise the 3. I think, yeah, I think that fight again is a case simply of like Greg was saying, obviously Peter's a known puncher, 27 knockouts, I think, in 30 or 35 fights or something, 35 wins or something. But I probably would stick still with Ramirez. I was actually quite impressed by the performance he put up with Inter Taylor as well. Surprised me actually that the fight that he put in with him. So I'd say, yeah, those are the three for me.
Okay, fantastic. And Greg, same question to you. What's your top three list?
Well, it'll really depend the winner out of Jose Ramirez, and it's Pedraza he's fighting, isn't it, this weekend? Yeah, so it'll depend the winner out of those two, but I think you've got to have Ramirez there. I didn't take anything from Josh. I don't really take much what Josh Taylor says, but especially when he said that he beat Ramirez easily. That was a hard fight. Ramirez was really good, man. He didn't win that easy. So I think the winner of that fight, but Ramirez has to be there for me. Prograis has to be there. And I'm not going to go against Elliot, because if someone said that Jack Catterall in the top three now, you can't call them a liar. He was robbed against the world number one. That's it. That's a fact. But I think Zepeda is still in there until that was Catterall's World Cup final. He now needs to show that another fight can happen in that division where he can keep that level. If he can keep that level, he's in my top three. But that was like his night. I want to see one more where he fights a top 5 guy. If he has that level of performance, Jack Catterall's in my top 3. So for me at the moment, Zepeda, Ramirez, and Prograis.
Fantastic, cool, good insight, chaps. Yeah, really enjoying this. We should do this sort of thing more often.
I agree with Greg though there. I agree with Greg's caveat as well. Like the Catterall Cup final, I do agree with that. There's a lot of sense in that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's almost like when you put like Kambosos in that lightweight conversation, you're thinking, well, you kind of have to put him there, but at the same time,
yeah,
I want to see him fight someone else.
Yeah, I think with Catterall before Josh Taylor, the Josh Taylor fight, I don't think a lot of people knew who he was. I think they were like even like boxing fans who kind of had heard of him, but just hadn't really seen much of him. And I'm interested now.
Harry Davis, Elliot. Let's be honest, his best was Harry Davis, and Taylor stopped him in 7 rounds convincingly. So let's give the boy a chance. For me, he won on Saturday.
Yeah,
no doubt about that. But I think he just needs a wee bit more just to be classed in that top elite division.
Yeah,
he had a good fight, but I want to see 2 or 3 good fights.
Yeah, it's also interesting now because the likes of like Ramirez and Zepeda, whether they'd be advised to fight Jack Catterall or not is an interesting one. So it's kind of interested me if does Jack Catterall A get robbed against Taylor, B now struggle to kind of get big fights. So I'm interested in what his career looks like for the next year or so. Cool. We move on. Same question, but domestic scene. It's kind of an interesting triangle with Jack Catterall, Hara Davis, Tyrone McKenna, because obviously they've all kind of faced each other. Not sure we're going to kind of get kind of any rematches there. Maybe we will. Who knows? I'm interested to see what Hara Davis does next. Actually, he's kind of been a bit quiet since he won the Golden Contract. Obviously Sam Maxwell, who's the British champion. Akeem Ennis-Brown, who arguably beat Sam Maxwell a few months ago, who I think's a good, skillful fighter personally. There's some other names as well. Harlem Eubanks, another one actually, who's looked quite good. Maybe not on the level as some of those other guys, but interested. If you guys are free to do with this question what you want, whether you want to give me a top 3 list or domestic fights you want to see. But I think it's another good, solid super lightweight division. Greg, I'll go to you first. Who are the top guys alongside Jack Catterall in the division in Britain?
I'm going to be honest with you, Elliot. This will show you guys sometimes there's things that I don't look into. I haven't looked into the UK super lightweight division that much because you've always had Taylor running the whole show.
Yeah.
Catterall now coming into the argument, but then it just feels like a little dip in class after that, and you're going down with the greatest of respects to guys who are trying to prove themselves, like Sam Maxwell, like Akeem Ennis-Brown, like O'Hara Davis, etc. I think you've got to have O'Hara Davis up there. I mean, he beat Tyrone McKenna. Tyrone McKenna, we've seen him beat a few times and get decisions with the greatest respect. So I think you've kind of got to have it as Catterall, Maxwell, because he won, and O'Hara Davis. I think those are the guys that are up there for me at the moment. But I think that division, Elliot, is a division where you're waiting for a breakout star. Either Catterall is going to take it by the scruff of the neck, or someone who we've probably not even spoke about much yet is going to come through and take over the whole thing. So yeah, that's where I am with that.
Yeah, interesting. Elliot, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I agree, Greg. I think Greg's actually been incredibly generous there in saying that there's Taylor, Catterall, and then a slight dip. I think the dip is quite a chasm between from those two to everyone else. I think I'm not going to put Tyrone McKenna there just for the simple reason that he's been gifted several decisions, in my opinion, over very recently. Again, Hara Davis, one of those guys that, you put him in there. And also, to be honest with you, he's got quite a fun style, so I'd like to see him fight. I'd also like, in many ways, I mean, you'd like, even thinking of those guys, like, even like someone like a Ritson, like Davis Jr., just throw them in with a Hara Davis and just let it happen. Like, I'm obviously like, there's fights that are around that you can literally mix and match, and essentially just the names kind of switch in and out, you kind of get a similar output. But I think if you make any sort of fight between, say, like a Davis up against someone like a Ritson, it'd be entertaining to see. So I quite like to see something like that. Probably won't happen, but those sort of open styles are what excite me. Distance away from McKenna. But then, Catterall's obviously now, if Taylor moves up on a level of his own, I think, and then I know he only got the decisions in me against McKenna and Davis, but convincingly so. So he's way above the rest of them.
Yeah, definitely. I think I think there are definitely some guys out there who are still good to watch. They're of a different level to Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall. But we'll see how things change, see if we get any kind of domestic scraps. That could be Jack Catterall's biggest kind of fight in the next few months, could be a domestic scrap rather than kind of fighting abroad or something like that. Who knows? We'll have to see. Final question, chaps. It was obviously a controversial decision last Saturday. Pretty much, I was going to say 99%, but it's probably more like 100% of people thought that Jack Catterall beat Josh Taylor. I think there is a possibility that we could see a rematch at 147. Whether that suits Jack Catterall, I don't know, but you could find a situation where Josh Taylor wants to right that wrong, and maybe he doesn't have a big fight at 147 instead. So will it happen next? I don't know. I'm not too sure, but obviously Jack Catterall, I think, would want that rematch. I think Josh Taylor could as well. But what I want to put to you guys is, if there is that rematch, do you think we'd see the same result? I know it's a tricky one because it's at a different weight, but just want to get your guys' kind of initial thoughts on if there was a rematch. Elliot, gonna go to you first on this one. What are your initial thoughts?
I hope it doesn't happen, for the simple reason that I think if it does happen, I think Taylor wins. I think fairly convincingly. I think the size difference on Saturday was still quite remarkable to witness. Even though, I mean, talking frame wise, even though you could look at Taylor and go, he still clearly looks somewhat drained. But even frame wise, you think if you give him an extra 7 pounds, he'll just die over him monstrous over someone like Catterall. And I think he'd beat him, to be honest with you, whether it was stoppage or points, I think he'd win. And it's one of those things where I look at it like other rematches, like sort of Anthony Yard versus like Lyndon Arthur. You just think, don't take it. It's almost better off just leaving it and not giving it the satisfaction. I think if Catterall takes it and then gets beaten, it almost undermines the achievement that he's already put in. I think in boxing fans' minds and everyone else will just look at it and go, okay, well, Taylor was weight drained. It's clearly better than him. There's a gulf there. So I wouldn't take it. I think if he does take it, Taylor wins fairly convincingly.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, you'd like to think he wouldn't just move up to a different weight division just because of that fight, but we'll have to see if it gets discussed. Greg, do you agree with Elliot? Would you imagine if that fight did happen at 147 pounds that Taylor would win the rematch?
Well, you guys know personally, I'm not a big Josh Taylor fan, but I'm very honest about the sport. And if I'm Jack Catterall, I don't take that fight. I think the best thing for Jack Catterall's career is to ride off the back of that he was absolutely robbed against Taylor and move on to a big fight at super lightweight. If they fight again, I think Taylor stops him quite convincingly. I think that was a terrible night at the office. You don't beat guys like Prograis, Ramirez, Baranchik, and then come unstuck against Catterall with the greatest of respect. I told you guys, you seen in my prediction video, he was totally drained at the weight. He's 5'10", 31, and made 10 stone. That's not healthy at 31. Right. So, to answer your question, I think at 147, Taylor stops him convincingly.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement. I wonder if there's a possibility they could fight, but maybe not as high as 147. But I don't see. I think Josh Taylor will. I'm not sure I see that happening. I think Josh Taylor will say 147 or forget about it. But I think I agree with you guys as well. I look at Jack Catterall and I think you're not a welterweight just yet. You're still very much a super lightweight. That's my opinion. So just keep things at that. All right, gents. Nice little kind of breakdown. We'll have to see what the super lightweight division has for us in 2022 and 2023. Hopefully see some good domestic fights. Hopefully see Jack Catterall fight for a world title again. But yeah, lots to look forward to. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks,
Thank you.